No, I would agree. I think that's why the future, I think, looks really bright for this ball club for a number of upcoming seasons. Corey Kluber, while winning the Cy Young, is winning it relatively early in his career. This is a guy that really has only 2 full seasons under his belt, so the Indians control him for the next 4 years. And when CC Sabathia won the Cy Young in 2007 and was now reaching the peak of his career, well, he was going to be a free agent the next year, and you knew he wasn't going to re-sign. And when Cliff Lee won the Cy Young in 2008, again, free agency was relatively around the corner. He was going to be a free agent in 2 years. And I think those ball clubs also felt not only could they not re-sign those guys, and they were right, but because the ball club needed some help, they were going to try to trade those guys to maybe jumpstart the franchise and get some immediate talent that could pay immediate dividends. We're not in that case now. Not only do you have Corey Kluber for the next 4 years at a minimum, but you also have a ball club that doesn't need that immediate transfusion of talent. This is a talented ball club right now, ready to win. They've had back-to-back winning years, playoffs 2 years ago, came close again last season, and so you don't need to be trading that one key piece that you have because you need help in 3 or 4 other areas.
That was always the problem of the Indians over the dark years, was whenever they needed pitching, they would trade the hitting. And then when they needed hitting, they would trade the pitching. And it's that circle that never stops. And I'm with you. That's why I tell people, I understand why they get frustrated. People lose. And you've mentioned it, even looking through the eras of this book. Players leave and fans get frustrated as their favorites move on. And that's why you find a period like this in Glory Days in Tribe Town that people latch onto and remember so fondly. But the future, I agree with you. Not just saying this as an Indians fan. I believe the future very bright for the next few years for this team because of that. And then that was one of the points there. I wanted to ask you something personally. You've been a long time here doing the broadcasting, and as a fellow broadcaster, I know how much time you're gone. You're in the studio, you're not home, etc., and you're traveling, which makes it even worse. How cool is it to come full circle, speaking of that term, and be able to do some things that involve your son and be there and see him as he's making his development as a baseball player? How cool were those moments for you?
Well, as a parent, there's nothing that will ever top that. I mean, all you want are your children to be healthy and happy and be able to pursue their dreams, and Nick was able to do that, and to watch him, play in a spring training game and face Major League pitching is, something that I know he'll never forget, and we certainly won't as a family. And you're always grateful for those moments, because it doesn't matter if your son is a would-be professional player or is, whatever, a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher. You just want them happy, and you want them to be able to pursue their dreams. And, it's a moment that it'll be hard to top.
And you know what, family, I think people underestimate for you to be able to build a 25-year career of being the standard that people are used to hearing with a franchise, to do the things that you've done, the sacrifice that it takes to allow you to give up your life to be a part of somebody else's life for all those years. I think sometimes people don't realize there's a lot of people behind the scenes, family, that are sacrificing to allow you to be a part of their life as well.
Well, you better have a great wife and someone that can hold it all together when you're on the road, because anything bad that happens usually happens when you're on the road. And I've got an incredible wife, and we've got 4 outstanding children. And, there are all kinds of negatives when it comes to traveling and being away from the family, but the positives outweigh that 100-fold. And like I say, she's an incredible mother and wife, and that's why it works.
bringing it back around here to the book, Glory Days in Tribe Town by yourself and Terry Pluto. A lot of the full circle is coming with the players of that era here, too, as we're seeing them begin to get put into the Indians Hall of Fame. Jim Thome and the statue. What were your thoughts, by the way, as an aside, on that? There was a lot of people, and I think the Indians have addressed some of people's concerns by adding the Larry Doby statue as well, but the Jim Thome statue, some people were very happy to see that. A different portion of the fan base felt, well, he left, he took the money, came back. What are your thoughts on the Indians doing that, and do you feel that most of the fan base has come around on Jim Thome, or is there still a bit of a different set of opinions?
Oh, I'm sure there's always going to be some negativity towards Jim because he elected to sign elsewhere, but that was his right. And, the people that say that, I never worry too much about people that are negative about somebody else's decisions. First and foremost, I don't judge other people on what their life decisions are, and they have no right to judge anybody else. I think we all have enough to handle when it comes to our own lives, and I think people ought to be concerned about that and not be judging other people. Jim gave this organization everything he had. He played 11, 12 years for the Indians. He's the all-time home run leader in Indians history. He's a guy that legitimately got 600 career home runs. He didn't have any chemical help. This guy will go into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame as a Cleveland Indian, and he's one of the finest people I've ever met in any walk of life. And if that isn't good enough for some fans, then so be it. Live in misery, and, no one's going to miss you. So I have no qualms in saying that because I know what kind of a human being he is, and I think it's outstanding that there's going to be, a statue commemorating his time and that era here in Cleveland. I mean, if we're going to turn our back on everybody that left this ball club from that era, well, then we've got nobody to honor. And the game has changed. Free agency has changed the game. People can say what they want, but players in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they would have left if they'd have been offered better opportunities elsewhere and more money, just like anybody else would in their walk of life. If somebody offers you a raise and you're able to move on, you're going to do it because it helps your family. And so I think it's important to commemorate the great players in Indians history, and I think these statues are just the beginning, and I think you'll see more of them. You mentioned Larry Doby, and there will be others that will be honored, and I think that's great. That makes your ballpark almost a part museum, and that's what makes baseball so special, that generations are able to look at those statues and read the plaques and relay stories to the next generation. And that's what connects baseball with people better than any other sport. And I've seen these statues at various other ballparks around baseball, and I think it's tremendous. And I'm so glad that the Indians are going to be doing more of these and again, embrace history. And this wasn't Albert Bell and the way he left town. This was a guy that epitomized everything that was good about his time in Cleveland.
Tom, you hit it on the head with what I felt about the Thome. My only issue with, and it wouldn't have mattered if it was Jim Thome, Omar, whoever the next statue was, I was just in that group that felt they needed to, Larry Doby needed to be the next one before we get into the modern players. The Indians, I would always talk to them about that. They'd say, well, you got the street name. And yeah, but it's not the same as the statue to me. And they've addressed that now. And so now I'm all for it. That was my one thing, was I thought, man, that's such, he's such a significant part of not just Indians history, but baseball history that people, may look past. I thought he needed to be honored. Now that they've added that, I'm on board. Let's whoever's next, that's cool. But that was my only issue. It didn't have anything to do with Jim Thome when he hit free agency or that. It was that I just thought that Larry Doby needed to be next. So like you just said, I was so happy that they addressed that, boom, like that, and got that out. Because that really, to me, was what the one issue that I had with that. And I love that they have the heritage area and they're going to expand on that. And like you said, it's right there. I would take my kids down to the area of the park and they go, man, I didn't even know this was here. Yeah, that's right. That was the only thing I thought was, man, they should attract more attention to this, because there's a lot of people that go, oh, yeah, but it's almost the forgotten part there. And I think they're going to add more focus on that here and really bring in the heritage of this club as well into being an exhibit. I think that's awesome, especially when you have the heritage that the Cleveland Indians have.
Yep, I agree.
Tom Hamilton, Glory Days in Tribe Town. You and Terry Pluto put together one heck of a book right here, and hopefully, who knows, 25 years from now, maybe people are writing a book about the current era of the Cleveland Indians. But even then, I don't know if anybody would ever fall in love with it as much as this. I think 25 years from now, Tom, people are still looking back at those 90s Indians as the tip of the iceberg, no matter what future teams do. That one is just special, and it has a place in the hearts of fans in this whole city.
I agree. It'll always be a great period, and like you said, I'm hopeful that we have another period like that. It would be great for the city and for Indians fans, but it doesn't happen very often, and then that's why you relish those memories.
Tom, before I let you go, I had a couple of questions here from some listeners here. Bruce wanted to know, is there one call? I mean, obviously, you're known for your signature calls. Is there one most memorable in your mind that is just bookmarked as this was my favorite moment? Not necessarily even your favorite call, but calling maybe your favorite signature moment of that era?
Yeah, there are so many. I think one is obviously Game 6 of the ALCS in '95 when, you're facing Seattle in that Wild Kingdom, and Randy Johnson is the most feared pitcher in the game, and if you lose that game, you've got to play a Game 7, and you never know what's going to happen, especially when you're playing it on the road. But Kenny Lofton scoring from second base on a passed ball, I mean, you just never see that in the regular season, much less with the American League pennant hanging in the balance, and that'll be always probably at the top of my list from a memory of that period, because when he scored, you knew from that point on this ball club was going to go to the World Series, and that impossible dream was about to become a reality. That to me stands right at the top of any of them.
You're known for all of these signature calls. I mean, I could go through them all, whether you started at the corner of Carnegie in Ontario and you end it with a ball game. I asked Joe Tate this, and he had an answer. I think yours will probably be pretty similar. Any of those, do they all come out of the ether? Have you ever planned any of those, or are they simply organic and you stick with the ones that work?
Yeah, I think in this business, if you're not spontaneous and if you're trying to script what you're going to say, chances are it'll blow up in your face and it'll sound very disingenuous. So, I think spontaneity is the key to doing play-by-play, and that's how I approach it. I've never really written anything out or pre-planned the ending of a game, because I'll tell you what, more than half the time you do that, and you're so consumed on what you want to say that you actually miss the moment. So I'm a big believer in being spontaneous.
All the great ones have said that. Final question. I'm going to put you jokingly on the spot because I promised Indians Twitter fans here that I would. They want to know, Tom Hamilton, when are you going to get your own Twitter account? You need one. They want you
never.
To have one. Are you going to get on Twitter?
That will never happen. And I have no problem with people that are on Twitter or want to tweet or whatever it is, but I will never be a part of it. I think too many people get themselves in trouble based on what they say on Twitter and say stuff, whether it's Twitter, whether it's email, whether it's text messaging. I've always told my kids, pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Say something face-to-face, because too many times I think things can get misconstrued otherwise, but, that's just me.
Too funny. So there you have it, Indians Twitter. Unfortunately, Hammy will entertain you on the radio, but he will not be joining you in your social media conversations. But that's okay. Rosie's on Twitter, so anybody, they can always pass the message along to you there. Terry Pluto, Tom Hamilton, glory days in Tribe Town. Seriously, I got this one sitting. I sat down and devoured this book, Tom. You guys did a great job, Terry and yourself, putting this together. And people can find it, of course, bookstores, Amazon. We're going to put the link on all of our social media and all of that. And I'm going to give you guys a chance to win. I happen to have a copy here, and I'm going to hook somebody up. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you about that in a minute as I let Hammy go. Hammy, thank you so much for joining us, and looking forward, of course, to your call.